Okay. All right. I am in the process of still sharing this. Some error over here. I couldn't get that done. So I'm going to do the share while you're talking. Charlene, I just want to say hi. Welcome to the Rebirth Experience with Coach K and friends. I also want to pause, and we have, I'm here with Charlene, Anita. Steve is back tonight. I also just want to pause and just give thanks for the life of D'Angelo. You know, he passed away today, and I met him briefly in Richmond, Virginia in the 90s in a record store where he was doing a signing. I will say that he kept leaving to go and get high and come back to the front. That's
How
true.
tall was he? How tall is he? How
Oh
tall was he?
man, super short, like
That's what
Kurt
I
Franklin
looked at it.
short.
It's like he looks like he's short. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You know, I think he's
Listen,
Kurt Franklin short. He was small. He was still fine. No, let me be clear, but he was
Yeah,
definitely.
but I saw a picture of his son and Angie Stone and him. And of course, the son is towering over both of them. So I was like, he
oh,
must be
wow.
short.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe the height came from the mom, but you know that boy has lost both parents in a year, young
I was
man.
about to say that
Yeah.
love to that young man, just both of his parents. It's
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah. I
Horrible.
would say at least he did get to say goodbye to his father. And the thing
Mhm.
is, you know, I had that opportunity. I don't know that it necessarily makes it better, but I think it does
I
help a little
think
bit
it
more with the
does.
closure. Yeah, it helps
Yeah.
a little bit more with the closure.
Yeah,
So,
I think so. And
um,
having been a hospice nurse, it does help
mm,
when you know that it's coming versus the circumstances that his mother died under which his mother
mhm.
died. So
Yeah, you're just left with whatever that last conversation
yeah,
was, you
which
know,
could have been anything, right?
anything, anything.
Yeah, I guess it. Yeah, I guess it depends.
Why do you say that, Steve?
Because my mother died from complications of diabetes, but she stopped being able to effectively like express and communicate because she had had several mini strokes, and while they didn't completely disable her, I just remember the quality of conversations several years before she died were really just superficial, and they were basic, like how are you doing? Fine. How are you doing? Fine. That was about it. There wasn't any in-depth conversation like we used to have.
Hmm.
So in a real sense, she was gone before she was gone. So when she finally, when they finally called me and told me that she died, yeah, it hurt, but it wasn't like there was anything I had to say that I hadn't said because that had happened so many years
Right.
prior.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
And that's the
all things
gift of
remaining,
foreknowledge. That's the
yeah,
gift that you get in foreknowledge
yeah.
versus the sudden death. So yeah, most definitely.
So, and the things about it was, well, I didn't expect that the mini strokes would have had that effect on her, but it did,
Mhm.
and that was the part that I realized that she was gone. She was gone in the sense that I couldn't talk to the woman that I used to talk
Mhm.
to,
Mhm.
years before. So that's kind of wild.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, how long has it been, Steve?
That was, she died in 2016. That was my year from hell. That was the year I was diagnosed with cancer. She died in June. I got diagnosed in October. What else happened that year? Oh, I I was in Oregon, worked for this. I was working for the state. That was a mistake in and of itself, but I got fired from that job in September. So mom died in June. I got fired in September and then diagnosed in October, which I was like, okay, we can end this year because there's been a lot this year that I'm just
Mm-hmm.
let's reset. So
Mm-hmm.
but but it was
Wow.
just weird um trying to talk to her, and then it's how some stroke victims are, you know, sometimes they have the words and they can't find the words or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it just wasn't there. I'd say, well, mom, what about such and such and such and such? She said, I don't remember it. I don't remember. So at the point that they stop remembering, what are you talking about? So yeah.
You know what, Steve? This is somewhat unrelated because he hasn't passed away, but my brother had a traumatic brain injury maybe 7 or 8 years ago. It's been now, and
Hmm.
it was unknown what happened. Like he was found on the sidewalk unconscious, and he was in the ICU for 6 days before we even knew. And so, but he looked unharmed. It was very strange. There was no bruising on him or anything. He lost his taste completely, and it never did come back. He can't take. He
Right.
has no sense of flavor, taste, or anything like that. And this is all before COVID. And
Right.
the moment that I realized he was different was at least a year after that incident. We were driving in the car to go do something, and I made a joke, the same joke we've been making like our entire adulthood about our father. And he just shouted, "Don't talk about my daddy like that." And
Right.
in that
Right.
moment, I was like, my brother's gone. It was absolutely something that
Yeah.
small,
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
devastating.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I,
That's the part to realize that they're there, but they're not there. They're not there the way they once were, man. That's kind of wild. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I thought I was thinking, oh, okay, and then I remembered, yes, that because I'm thinking if you could still talk about anything, you're still talking,
No,
but
you
when
can't
you
because they
lose
can't.
those
There's
shared
no,
memories and the banter and
yes.
whatever is not the
All that
same.
stuff is gone. Yeah.
Oh
You're like,
yeah,
well, mom, what about, do you remember such and such and such? No, I don't remember it. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
so where do you
yeah.
go from there?
Where do you go from there? You can't tell the same jokes, any of that. So Um, well, I found some great hot topics, but I want Charlena has a topic, so let me let you get started first, while I go ahead and do this share.
All right. So in the morning when I'm getting dressed to go to work, because of where I live, I think there's only one talk radio show, urban show in the morning on the radio, which is the Ricky Smiley show. And so I think this must have been, yeah, maybe it was just yesterday that they were talking about. Have you heard the recent story about Aisha Curry and her statements on not ever wanting to get married? And I'm going to tell you this: the staff of the Ricky Smiley Morning Show, they went into her hard and deep. Like, why would she say that? And how could she say that? Oh, that's so respectful to her husband. And I mean, they just completely bashed her. And I was actually quite surprised at that. And so I just want to get you guys' thoughts on that because I know what mine are.
In terms of how she felt or why she said it. I mean,
No,
if
well,
she
in
should say
terms
it.
of if because their whole perspective was how could she say that? Why would she say that? Like that's something she should say with her therapist. How could she throw him under the bus like that? Like that's so disrespectful to him. And do you think that that is was a disrespectful statement for her to make as a married woman to a man that has helped afford her a life that she may not, we don't know for sure, but may not have been able to have on her own.
Well, we don't know what she discussed with him. They might have already discussed it, and it's a non-issue, so that's why she felt the need to share it, or
Mhm.
that's why she felt comfortable sharing it. So is it disrespectful if she's talked about it at length with her husband and now is comfortable enough to share it with others? I don't think it is. I think people, she might have said it for a reaction. I don't know. But if that's her honest, genuine, feeling, then why not? I mean, I don't have a problem with that. And I mean, I think that the problem we have in today's society is that we're not as authentic as we claim to be. Because if we were really authentic, we would admit that even though we're in love with folks, sometimes we don't like them. You know?
Mhm.
And it's okay to not like them because eventually the love will whatever, or you know what I'm saying. But we're so used to being fake that it surprises us when people are authentic. And then if that was an authentic moment, then I don't have a problem with that. That's between her and her husband, and I suspect that they've already discussed it.
I'm sure they have. And thank you
Probably
for
told
saying
her
that.
I don't want to get married either, but here we are.
Yeah. So, so, but yeah, thank you for your perspective in terms of bringing up the whole, authenticity piece, and that a lot of people aren't really able to, to be authentic and to speak, to speak their truth. I personally did not think that there was anything disrespectful. She didn't say, I didn't get married and oh, I regret being married.
Right.
She
That's a whole
just
different issue.
said,
Yeah.
totally different, because when I was 20, 21, 22, I didn't want to get married. I had no
Right.
plans on getting married.
Right.
I was like, I got a life plan and it does not involve a husband. But
Right.
here, 2 marriages later, here I am.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
regret, yeah, I don't regret getting married, but and for me, if I had said something like that, or to say something like that in front of my husband, I'm pretty sure, I know he would not be offended by it.
Right.
I just
Right.
found it so interesting how hard they went on her. Like, how
Yeah.
dare she say that? It was just,
Oh, man.
it was surprising to me.
Let me get
Well,
my notes.
they're trying to uphold those societal standards that are artificial anyway. Who said that you have to that everybody has to have this fairy tale, we're in love, we've always been in love, yada yada yada. Very few people are willing, are genuine, or authentic enough to say, yeah. Well, Samuel Jackson, I don't know if you've ever heard his story about he and his wife, the ups and downs and everything. Those are authentic
Mhm.
utterances, you know what I'm saying? And most people aren't ready to hear any of those things. They want to believe the
Might be
myths.
right, and that might be more a reflection of them, like who they are and where they are. So to see somebody else speaking their truth because
Exactly.
they don't have the ability to do that, it makes them very uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. Because they're trying to get everybody back in line.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly. Right. And
Don't
there's
let them
no
find out it's all a hoax, Steve. It's a
Ex- exactly. Exactly. People will be like, give me my wedding gift back. That
Yes,
was a bunch of
yes,
bullshit from the
yes,
beginning. I
yes,
want my
yes.
money back.
Well, what I wrote down is that first of all, people project. I really shouldn't have started with this one because there's so much there. When people, it's just like on the opposite side of this, Tia Mari. I don't know how you pronounce her name. Anyway,
Mari, yeah,
Mari. She, now talks about her single life and dating, and she has the funniest videos. They say he's looking, you find him when you're least looking, and she's tiptoeing around like she's trying to pretend not to look, looking for Mr. Right. And so it's really funny. But people in the comments are like, well, why did she leave her husband then? You can always tell who's never been married before. Let's say that. Because all the
right.
conversations, why did she leave her husband then? Now you're just out here looking for somebody else, and da 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 da. And that's also the reason why people stay in bad marriages. They don't want to
Yes,
go
right,
back out there again. And you know
right.
what
And
I
be
tell
alone.
people? You know what's out there? You.
Mhm.
You're out there. Who
Yeah.
you really are outside of all of this toxicity. But there's a stigma still with being single, and I think that it's become true for guys as well. Marriage is a
Mm,
status symbol. It proves people view marriage. Oops, people view
Like,
marriage
oh,
as though you've accomplished
somebody,
something.
yeah, somebody desires you.
Yes,
and wants you. I'm desirable. I'm
yes.
wanted
You're
because
wanted.
see,
And
this
especially
person.
men, though. There's a difference, Charlena, with the men and the women
So
because
what do
as
you think the
well,
difference is?
the big differences are it's more acceptable for a man to be single, although I don't think it's always favorable. But starting with women, men will say, anytime you speak against the common narratives around what women should be doing or any of that, they're like, oh, you must be single. That's why you don't have a man. Like we're not willing to settle for whatever they feel like doing. So therefore, we're automatically labeled bitter. Nobody wanted us.
Undesirable.
And I used to get in that cycle where I would participate in some of those comments and say I chose my divorce. He would still be right here. That was me. As a matter of fact, I've never been left by anyone, and I thought that was I said, well, nobody's ever broken up with me until I realized it was because I had no standard. Why would they leave? You know what my daddy said? A man hates to lose his fool.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
anyway, but I definitely felt when I was married more, especially as a Black woman with children, and you're introducing yourself in the work environment and stuff, saying, oh, I'm married, I have this. It's like
Mhm.
people say, oh, okay,
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
secure. But when you say you're divorced, you're automatically saying, I did something and it didn't work. When the
Mhm.
truth is, I mean, it depends on what you believe, but if somebody wants to get married and divorced, constantly because that's what they desire.
More power to them.
Yeah, and I feel that. I mean, as a single male, sometimes I'm reluctant. It, I know it should not make a difference, but I know that it does make a difference. So if I say, yeah, I've been married twice, and then people are like, you've been married two times? What's going on? So it's not so much that you feel like you know a used car, but in a sense you do. You know, even though I've made my peace with that, I understand the sentiment. I understand why somebody would be reluctant, but at the end of the day, I am who I am.
But
Uh,
Steve, do you think, 'cause I believe this, that there's a narrative for whatever your situation is. If you're single, there's some people gonna look at you, not specifically you, but a person and be like, oh, you're single, nobody wants you. You're married and then you got a divorce. Oh, well, what happened? Who did what? Something,
right, right,
something, one
right,
of you, somebody, where do I point the finger? And then when
right,
you start
right,
to get into multiple, like, so there's always a narrative, and it just goes back to, um you can never please everybody. There's
yeah,
Everybody's going to have somebody's going to have some problem with wherever you are,
that's true.
with
That's
wherever
very
you
true.
are. Even if you're married, there are people that, "Ooh, I just want to come home and get in my bed every day. I don't want to have to deal with no man. How you, honey, I don't want to answer to nobody." Like, everybody's gonna have a problem with wherever you are. So it's up to you, it's up to the individual to be
Right.
to be good and at peace with wherever they are. Do the work around wherever they are.
Yeah, because
Let me
at the
ask
end of the day, it is the narrative that they're playing in their head is more about them than it is about you.
Mhm. It
you.
is
Yeah.
theirs, yeah.
And that's the reality.
Mhm.
It's more
It's
about
their
them than it
stuff.
is about
It's
you.
right. It's
Yeah.
it's their stuff. It's their own stuff. When somebody comes at
Right.
somebody like that about their whatever their position is, whatever their place is, their situation, it's about that person that's coming
Right.
at you. There's
Right.
something they're not at, they have not accepted that, and they're not able to give liberty to a person to be in their own space that's different from what they think that person should be.
Right.
Well, let
Right.
me ask you this, Steve. About I want to ask you a male perspective on my situation because at first I really didn't think it was any big deal until I told somebody and their facial expression changed. But so technically I've been married twice too. I mean, not technically legally, but it was to the same person. So I don't ever think about, oh my goodness, I'm twice divorced. But that is the
Right.
truth. And
Mhm.
so I remember I told this guy and I said, well, I married him twice. We remarried the second time, and he looked like, oh, you know, I I don't want to suppose, but what do you think that some of the, I mean, just generalizations around what a guy could think about that, not just twice divorced, but married the same person twice?
I'm weird that way. It doesn't bother me. I can see why it would happen, and I can see why a lot of people would do that. Some people try, they're like, okay, well, we tried it, it didn't work, but now we've done a little growth, we've done a little personal stuff, we worked on ourselves a little bit, let's try it again, and they'll try it again, and they break up again. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that I think that immature folks who are so locked into what society thinks will have a problem with that. That's what I think. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier. How authentic are they? So they may think that they're authentic, but my thing is, can you accept a person just as they are, and they've had a couple of relationships, 3 or 4, maybe say it's not twice. Say they've been married 4 times. Okay, you've been married 4 times. I would say, approaching that, why would you want to get married again?
Well, see, but and now I need to ask something else on that, but I think that because your intention personally is not remarriage, you may not care about many of the same things that a man would care about if
Weird. Yeah, I'm weird
married.
that way.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying. So it's also
Hmm.
there's also that component of what is your intention? Because if your
Yeah,
intention is never to do that, why would you're looking at totally different things? Not totally different, but there's a lot of things you're looking.
yeah,
First of all, you're looking to see, is she going to be okay with the fact that this is my lifestyle choice and not pressure me to do
right.
more? Because who wants to even bother getting involved if the person is going to go off in another direction from what you agreed? So what I'm thinking is also, when you tell people things, they immediately make a judgment. I just don't
Yeah,
think they're
yeah,
going
But
to
yeah,
be
that's
yeah,
human nature. That's
they're going
human.
to make a judgment,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So even though I gave the explanation of the first time, we were young and it was terrible, it was only a couple years, and it wasn't that there was all this individual growth. That wasn't my truth. The truth was I still had low self-esteem, and I was in the church, and I thought this is a way I was still trying to right my sin. I was still trying to rinse myself
yeah,
with a single mother's sin. And so I come off of a rebound, and he was still standing there like, give me another chance. I'm a great guy. And so I was like, what else do I have to do? It was very casual. But if
right.
but if I was telling this to somebody who really still wanted to invest in me, I know that I could unpack it and explain it in a way that makes sense. And I'm
Mhm.
totally not that person today. That being
Yeah,
said, I think there are still men who might, you didn't say this part, but this is what I think some men would think. Is it really over now? Like, how do I know that there's
yeah,
not?
and that's so weird.
But that's
That's a weird place to come from too. From the standpoint, if you have if you have kids with a person, then it's never over
Mhm.
because you got kids. So there's going to be contact. That doesn't mean that you're trying to, have sex with them or anything like that. But there is a connection that's there, and it should be a healthy one, or try to be a healthy one, because of those kids. Um, I think I've seen it somewhere. Um, I think it was a clip. Somebody was saying that I don't know if I can't remember if it was a man or a woman who were saying that it might have been both. Basically, they were saying that if the person that they get involved with is still involved with their ex, they don't want to have anything to do with them because they're still involved with their ex. And I'm thinking that's so stupid, because if their ex has kids with them, how are they going to not be involved? That's craziness to me. But
Let,
a lot of people think that way.
let me ask you this, Steve. We're pivoting. We're going to get to our other hot topics, but I want to first say
Okay.
hi to Dom. We got to have Dom on here, Charlena, with Steve. That generational, that would be amazing. So
Hey,
definitely
Dom.
want to have you back on. So this is the thing. So there was a question posed, I think it was by Lateris, the Dear Wifey podcast guy. And he said, would you be okay with your significant other taking their ex to the airport? And people were all up and down the comments, but I don't think what people don't tend to realize is that your answer to that question is most likely directly related to what you have dealt with in the past. So if you've been cheated on a lot, and you might be cautious. And for me, even though I have been cheated on in the past, I would still base it on the person I'm dealing with. Like the last guy I was dating, I wouldn't care who he picked up from the airport. He's very trustworthy. But most people can't rise up from their own experiences to evaluate each individual that they're dealing with. Because I mean, people are all up and down through the comments. And now I will say that the woman who was on that episode, it wasn't just that was the first like little yellow flag that maybe they were a little closer than she thought. But she said over time, it felt like y'all need to be together. You know, like what she saw between them still, it felt like there was unfinished business. I just think it's a very personal situation.
Here's how I answer that question. So over the summer, the kid, my daughter, with my ex and her youngest son, who's not my son, right? She has another child that's not mine, who's younger than my daughter. My daughter's 12. And the son is 5, right? Well, they flew out to be with their grandparents in Colorado. On the return flight, it got diverted to Memphis. And they were not they were being escorted by flight attendants. They were using that program, right? Mm-hmm. Well, in Memphis, it unraveled. The pilots they were not going to get back to Atlanta, right? We don't know who they were with, whatever. And so my ex called me and said, "Well, what do we do?" I said, "I'm going to gas up the car. I'm coming by to get you. We're going to get the kids." Now, one was mine, one was not mine. It didn't make any difference. The kids were stranded. I'm going to get the kids. So we drove all night, about 5 hours there, picked up the kids, drove 5 hours back. It didn't bother me. Now, some people wouldn't do that, but that was not, that's what I think you should do. I mean, to me. And it wouldn't have bothered me if I was married to somebody who said, "Hey, here's what's happening with the kids. I got to go with this." Okay, well, go. I'll see you when you get back. Do you need some gas? Or what can I do for you? But again, we're talking about, like you said, Cara, we're talking about what the person has experienced and also their maturity level. Here's what I believe. If a person wants to cheat, there's nothing you can do to stop them.
Exactly.
I don't care how vigilant, how many private investigators you hire, what if they
how
really
many
want to
air
cheat,
tags you put in their stuff,
you.
like
there is nothing you can do that's going to stop that. Nothing.
Exactly.
So now I can't worry about that. I just can't.
Not the air tag. See, Steve, that's where I'm at. And this is coming from someone who has dealt with a ton of infidelity. I stopped tracking the husband during the marriage. Like I just couldn't be bothered anymore. And I that's just not, if I have to do all that, I'm in the wrong relationship. Like I have learned the power of trusting yourself, because most people who deal with infidelity, well, probably all, there's something in here. Something is telling you something is going on. You, especially if you're very connected to the person. I didn't get it this way in the marriage because we didn't have that connection, that level of connection. But my first, my oldest daughter, her father, I was pregnant with her, and we walked into the student center on campus, and there was a woman standing at the printer or whatever, and I looked at her and I looked at him, and I saw the look between the two of them, and I already knew what was going on.
Yeah, you knew.
I knew it, and it didn't matter what he said anymore. He could have said anything. I already knew what was going on. So that's why I think that people ignore it. They're just pressing it down, because if I find this is what I felt in the marriage. If I find this out, I got to make a decision now, and my son was little, and I knew selfishly I didn't want to raise up him by myself from that young of an age. I just didn't want to do it. And so I was like, I'm just going to like pretend like whatever, because I'm not ready to do all that now. But the point is, cheaters are going to cheat. And if somebody's going to be unfaithful, now that doesn't mean they should invite trouble and invite invite it. So if I saw that my partner had a little flirtatious, a little like sexual energy there, I might talk to them about it. We can have a conversation and see kind of where that goes. But I would appreciate him having a good enough relationship with his ex, to be able to help her with things. And now let me be clear, she and I need to be cool. If she's funky to me, which I think a man would feel the same way. Like if my ex is real funky to you, Steve, but with me he's hey kiki and we going to hang out with the kid. Come on, that's disrespectful. Just like any other friend or relative
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's three things. I think it's, what your history has been. I think it's the person that you are in the relationship with. I'll say four. I think it's also the relationship that they have with that ex. How do they interact? If there's any residual stuff that's still there. And then I think it also has to do with just you in terms of when you talked about you seeing signs. How have you dealt with that? Did you take ownership of it in terms of what you needed to do about what you saw and what you suspected? If you just took that stuff and you just buried it and you just didn't do anything even though it was obvious to you, then I think it's going to make you ultra sensitive, ultra concerned about what may or may not be there. So there's so many factors that involve what what you are comfortable with allowing your spouse, or the level that you're comfortable with allowing your spouse allowing, or I should say the level that your spouse is involved with their ex. I know for me, my husband's late wife, of course, she's passed away, but and then the other thing too is not that it can't happen, but feel like the person that I'm with is really into me. And so now that doesn't mean it can't happen, but that helps as well. If you feel secure in your relationship with your partner, then that helps as well. If maybe you have a partner that has a wandering eye, then that doesn't allow you to feel as secure in your relationship. So there's so many factors that go into that.
Yeah, well, I want us to talk about some other things, but I will say that I believe that for me, my hope, I'm trying to word this carefully. Charlene, how much I believe in the power of words. I don't desire to ever um, date anyone again that has issues with monogamy. I don't want anybody who's practicing on me. If they were unfaithful in the past, unless it was like a one-time thing, for me, that's just a deal breaker. Because when that having open boundaries like that, it's very hard to change. I definitely could have been a cheater. It was a choice, but I could do it very well if I had wanted to be out there like that. And it's just and I'm naturally flirtatious, right? Which is something I know I've become aware of. I got to pull back because not only can it send the wrong message to somebody that I'm not potentially interested in, it also can make me look like I'm moving a little faster when I really want to be received for, my intellect and conversation and things like that. So a couple of little things to work on. But yeah, I think that the boundaries that hopefully it works itself out. And at this big age, people have already done some work around that. So you don't have to have like long conversations. But if we're having it on and I think it's inappropriate and you're struggling to like put it in a box, it's time for
I
different.
think it just comes down to it's very simple in terms of the responsibility of your partner. And I think that it is, if it makes, so if I am not a naturally jealous person or insecure person, if I'm not that person, then it's on the responsibility of my partner to maintain the boundaries and ensure that I feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
And like the Bible says, like avoid
Parents.
the very appearance of evil. And I know for me, that's really important.
Yeah,
Is
I,
just
I agree and disagree.
okay.
I think we're responsible for our own triggers. That's the first thing. So if there's something that triggers you, you have to figure out why it's triggering you. That's
Hmm.
true.
I
I
agree.
agree that we should be reasonable in avoiding things that look questionable.
Mhm.
But I don't think that we have to jump through hoops just to prove that we're not doing something. I think that's where, at
I
what
agree.
point at what point does it become um, um, difficult to prove to you that I'm not doing anything? So that's the
And
question.
right, and I
And
completely I
I
agree
don't
with you,
know.
Steve.
I mean,
I
with
agree with
people
you.
who are jealous, you see,
That's
now
right.
it's a slippery slope because
I
you can
I
never
can't manage you.
necessarily prove. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And so that's why I say I agree. I'm not going to do anything that's going to be. I'm not going to flaunt. If I'm flirtatious, I'm going to dial all that back or do whatever. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
that you
Hmm.
know that I'm into you and you can feel secure. At the same
Hmm.
time, I'm not going to so restrict my life that I don't have a life because I'm trying to make sure that you're okay with what I'm doing. I don't think
And
that
I
you
mean that,
should do
and
that.
I right, and I completely agree. I think that's a totally different issue because now
Yeah,
you're dealing
yeah,
with a partner who's insecure, and
right.
that's another issue to
But,
deal
Yeah,
but
with.
Charlene, and I think it could be easily resolved if and by resolve that doesn't always mean that it works out. But if Steve said something like, "What would you need in order to feel secure?" And if she lists something that he's not willing to do, maybe that's it. Or if she says, "I love reassurance. I like you to check on me during the day because you don't check in. I think
Mhm.
it's triggering something for me." That doesn't mean she doesn't have work to do in that area
Mhm. Mhm.
because no one, oh my goodness, no one wants that job. Like, and they think there's this perception that it's only women that need all of this reassurance, but baby, there's a lot
Mhm.
of
more
men.
men. I think it's more
Mhm.
men. I
Ah,
think it's
thank
more men.
you.
Oh yeah, I
I'm
think
glad
it's
you
more men.
said that, Steve, because I feel
Yeah,
like
I think men. Yeah,
men when they get older, they're just like hella needy. That's
yeah.
one of my
I think it's
greatest
men.
fears.
I think it's men. Yeah, straight up.
That's one of my greatest fears about dating again is that I just feel like men are can be really more needy than they will appear
Yeah,
to be. And,
yeah,
and it's not just sexual needs. It's just like when they're really into you, they want to be around you like a lot.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
makes me so nervous.
Well, it's
You
interesting
better
because
like them.
yeah, when I was working, I work in mental health, and in mental health, there are a lot more women in mental health than there are men. And I told my wife at the time, I said, I'm in mental health. I'm going to work with a lot of women. Understand that.
Mhm.
You can meet them. I can introduce you, understand who I'm working with, but understand I'm going to be working with a whole lot more women than I am men. That doesn't mean I'm cheating. I'm just letting you know this is what the environment is going to look like. And I think when I first started, I was the only male. There were in my office there were four of us, five of us. I was the only male. Eventually, somebody came along, but for the most part, all my career, I was the one or two males. Most of them were females. Most of them were women. So that was the reality. Now, I didn't have any problem introducing, let her know, what I'm saying, that kind of, I wasn't hiding anything, but I needed her to know what the lay of the land looked like. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So she wasn't, well, who is this and who is that? Well, they're all there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Well, the hospital environment's the same because the person I
I
was
heard
married to
that.
worked in the hospital for a while, and he would say it is like Grey's Anatomy. There's a lot going on,
Yes,
and I
it
think
Yeah,
he
yeah,
is.
just
yeah,
enjoyed
it
the
is.
party himself. But there was just
Yeah.
a lot. Well, he used to say it's so funny, Charlene, how people say things, especially men say things, and women don't always pick it up. But he would say, oh, I just have this problem with women. But then he would say, "Oh, but I stopped cheating a long time ago." Like it
Right.
became a running. It's amazing how we can embrace
Running
toxicity.
joke.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
became a running joke of, oh, he would tell a story and he'd be like, "Oh, this was before we met." I'm like, at some point,
Right.
I was like, it's been 20 years. I met you at 22. How many
Yeah.
stories could you
So
possibly
this
have?
sounds like this is current events. It doesn't sound like no
Yeah,
historical
yeah.
fact.
It was
Yeah.
like, and I guess that's why but what I've since learned is that because I'd already endured cheating before that, that was never my big issue. Crazy as that
Yeah.
may sound, I was more concerned about the day-to-day treatment, attentiveness. In my mind, I was like, why would he? It's just a whole nother thing. But hold on, I want
So
us to
listen,
answer this question from Dominique.
okay.
Yes, because I want I mean, this
Oh,
is a
Dominique,
he asked this
great
question.
question,
But I
Dominique.
think this is a very common question because women. Oh no, here's another layer to it. Because I was going to say yes, women can come back from a man cheating because women do stay a lot more than men do. But he said, can she come back from it? And what I want to say is, a woman may stay because a man cheated, but that doesn't mean she comes back. Comes back. The relationship can even keep going, but that doesn't mean she really comes back from it. But
Well, and that's fine. I mean,
I think it varies.
if you look at cheating as a traumatic event,
Mhm.
um, once a traumatic
I
event
do.
occurs and you exit from that event different, so the relationship is going to have to be different.
It's
So
going
I
to be
don't think
different.
it's ever going to be like it
Mhm.
was.
Ever.
If it's going to thrive, it's going to have to be something different.
It's a new, right. You have to build a new
Yeah,
relationship.
I think men have a problem resuming a relationship with a woman who's cheated because they got so much pride. And the first thing in a man's head is some other man has been with my woman.
Mhm.
And they cannot stomach that because now they're in their head, they're comparing themselves to this man that she cheated with. But I don't think some women may, but I think they look at it from a different perspective. And so I think the relationship is going to be different, and a woman is willing to put in the work if a man has cheated to make it different. I don't think the man is willing to do that. Some men are, but most men are not because that pride factor is there, man, and they just will not let that part go. They just won't let it go.
And see, that's why I think the woman tends to deal with it because she's got this pride. I'm going to keep my man. This other woman's not going to have him type thing. And so
Yeah,
she's more willing to deal with it. But the rest of
I
what
can
you
see
said,
that.
Steve, is the
Yeah,
same. She's thinking the same thing. Am I not good enough? What kind of tricks is she performing? What you said was different than what I've heard other men say, which is men get concerned because they know that a lot of women are not
Emotional.
cheating for the physical. There's a
It's
gap there.
emotional.
There's a
yeah.
gap
Mhm.
there, and
Oh
some
yeah,
other
yeah,
dude was in her ear. We have to be talked into it. So he's concerned about the emotional side
Mhm.
more so than the physical. And I think,
Mhm.
whereas a woman, you can't, especially my mentality, because I don't view sex as emotionally as some women. Like, it's a choice for me to be abstinent right now. I could have casual sex. I'd be fine. I'm not going to get attached to somebody because of that. And so I think because I was raised by a man and had more male thinking, when I saw the cheating, I knew when a man says it didn't mean anything, like, that's really the truth. But what the flaw in that thinking though is, a man could say it didn't mean anything, but it meant everything to her.
Mhm.
right,
I still
right.
remember, like, the first time that I was cheated on. Well, the first I was devastated. The first real time I would count was college. My boyfriend went to an event, and when everybody came back, it was an Oakwood alumni. They all went from Andrews to Oakwood alumni, and when they came back, my roommate told me, "Oh, I walked into the hotel room and he had his hand in so and so's underwear, like they were laying in the bed. I mean, he was cold busted." And when
Right.
went to the boys' dorm and I was standing in the lobby. It's like you remember every little detail. And I asked him, "Did you do it?" And he said, "Yes." And I literally felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. It didn't feel like something that was in my head. I felt a gut punch. I like bent over. Absolutely, the betrayal. It is trauma.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I've tried to explain that to my son, that it's the importance of being faithful and being honest, and that girls will still date you even if you tell them you ain't the only one. You can be yourself, and you'll still get the attention because, I mean, that was like 35 years ago. It's traumatic because in your mind you're thinking one thing is going on, and you put all your energy into that, and it's really, this person was dividing time between you and somebody else. It's
yeah,
devastating.
Mhm.
yeah.
So I'm
So,
desensitized more now, but I don't think that's a good thing.
mhm. So for
But it
the
does
sake
go
of
back to what Charlene said before, and that is, um, you will assess it and evaluate it based on where you are and where you're from, because some people it may not mean the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And for example, if you have a male or if you have a woman or a man who's been raised or socialized in an environment where um, cheating was a normal part of that system, they're not going to view it the same,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not going
Mm-hmm.
to understand why you don't view it like they view it. You see what I'm saying? And so it's not even a deal breaker for them because they've seen it so much, you know what I'm saying? And so they've seen the relationships go through all of that stuff, you know what I'm saying? Versus someone who's never seen it and who, if they when they did see it, it was disruptive to everything. That's a whole different thing then. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
See, that's why the dating is all wrong. We should be able to have hot topics within the first 30 days. People want
Oh
to
yeah,
take
yeah,
too much
yeah.
time building emotional connections, and you might not even be compatible because that mentality, there's some hot topics around the mentality of certain things
Mm-hmm.
that need to be discussed early. And I think especially when you're older, you have less
Yeah.
time to waste. People are more settled. And like I've said, I want my settled ways to match someone else's settled
Mm-hmm.
ways for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, to
Mm-hmm.
have less
Right, right.
conflict.
Yeah,
And there are certain key
confidentiality.
topics that if you feel very
You're
differently
not
on
in
it,
alignment.
yeah, you just don't need to be
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
dating.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Keep talking. I'll be
So
right back.
yeah, so before I started dating my husband, I would say the first 30, 60 days, I remember, we'd be in bed and the conversations and the questions, the probing questions of, just trying to establish, what is your value system, what's important, what are your deal breakers? And then, as Cara, we had a time where we disclose, like we put out our shit. Like I'm gonna throw out what my shit was from my past, and you tell me if you can deal with it. You throw out mine because I don't want to be in love. And 6, 9 months down the line, you disclose some stuff, and I realize that's a deal breaker for me. So that was very helpful. But I do, we're having this conversation, and you know, um, I believe in disclosure. I'm a grown woman, and the decisions that I've made in my past in my life are decisions that I have come to a place of resolution and understanding. I was the cheater in my marriage. I cheated in my marriage, and
In her first marriage.
my first marriage, yeah, not this one, in my first marriage, and I know that it was devastating for my husband at the time, and he actually took me back, surprisingly. He did. But even years, I say maybe a couple of years after that, I just decided to go ahead and leave the marriage because I realized that the things that led me to that act still existed.
There. Yeah,
And
so there.
because I didn't want to be that person, um, I decided to go ahead and leave the marriage.
Wait, let
So,
me put this up here, and because and then I'm gonna make us pivot just because I want to make sure we touch on some of these other things. So Dom is saying that, now dating is about sex, physical attraction, money, and dates. I want to say this, I could be wrong. Dom, definitely need to hear more from your generation on this, but my opinion is that a lot of women have given up hope.
mhm,
They've given up on getting love, and because that's what they really want. They may
right.
be talking about the money, the
Mhm,
dates, and that sort of thing, but
mhm,
what they really want is the love.
mhm,
And a lot of women, I think, in Dom's generation, have seen their mothers be cheated on, and I'm not saying that all the men are bad. Women have done things as well, but they've lost the illusion of that it could ever be something real.
mhm,
I'm not going to get the
mhm,
Michelle and Barack Obama situation. So what
mhm.
can I
I
get
get
from
it.
this? That's the
Right.
root of that. And so what that shows, if I were a man, I would be so repelled. I would run so far away from those women because I know women. I meet women every day that I'm a camper, right? The women I camp with, they're in their 30s. A lot of them are. The single women, this is not what they're thinking about: money, dates, etc. But so I think these men that talk about this all the time are really not going to the right places. They're probably even it could even be their physical type. A lot of men are very, they're very visual, as we know, and I just that probably irks my soul more than anything else, because you could have a beautiful companion, but you're so focused on the superficiality of her body and her body type and caught up in that, and can't get past that. That this is why a lot of the women who have that body type, this is what they're on, and they also get hit on by men so much. I think a lot of them think that you're not, you have to pay to get in. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different um this is a different mentality, but
Well, Charlene said last week that it's always been transactional. So
Every relationship is transactional, I believe.
I think dating has always been about sex, physical attraction, money, and date. I think it just has been. I think from a male perspective, um, it doesn't mean you had to be rich, but we I remember we didn't want to go on dates unless we had a car, had access to a car. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it didn't have to be it didn't have to be the best. It just had to be a car. You know what I'm saying? Um, and we had to take them to and we felt like we wanted to go to a decent restaurant.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, what was that? I mean, that was courting. I mean, back in the day, it was
Mhm.
courting. Now, you wouldn't necessarily going to do anything on the first date, but eventually, the unspoken socialization was, if you continue going this route, at some point you're going to be physical.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, how's that different than today? I think you just get to it quicker. I don't know.
Mhm.
I
People
just
just put it out
it
there.
really frustrates me because there should just be balance. I've dealt with way too much.
When you say balance, what do you mean though?
Yeah, what do
Let
you
me
mean?
explain that. For me, I've dealt with way too much brokenness, cheapness. I'm 53 years old, and I'm ashamed at how few dates I've actually had, and how few times I've been picked up at my home and taken somewhere nice, or we're
Mhm.
meeting and it's somewhere nice, or we're going to away to for the weekend. It's not even necessarily about it being expensive. It's about time, attention, and doing things I care about. And so many men are jaded, thinking that the woman is always after the money, that they guard themselves from that. So, what I mean by balance is, absolutely, I want a nice date every now and then. But if you said, hey, we're going to the park this weekend, we're going to hang out all day, I got a frisbee we're going to throw, I would be just as excited for that. But what I find is that some men, that's all you're doing. You're at the park, or you're at your house or my house, and there's not enough dates. So that's what I mean by the balance. I even, and I'm like you said, you're different. I'm different too. It could even be like, listen, my budget will only allow us to do this once a quarter. So every 16th week, we're gonna kick it hard. In between that though, I need to keep it budget friendly. I would be like, bet. And I would say, here's some budget friendly things we can do. And then every quarter we go do the big thing. I could handle that, something so prescriptive. And so, but I find is that the men are so jaded by these women chasing the money and the day, that it's like they don't want to do it at all. Or you
Okay.
gotta
It's, I
like
mean, it's
jump through
everybody.
major hoops to
But
get.
both parties are jaded,
Yeah,
and I
I
think
can't deal
it's
with that.
well, you don't.
I can't deal with that. I've done
Oh,
too much work on myself
but
to
I
be
think
judged
so.
based
So
on anybody else that's out there.
I can just say, fortunately, my experience has been very different. But I would want to question. I would want to challenge the men. So even maybe Dom, you're a young guy dating. Um,
Don't make me send down this link to jump on here if he's available.
Thank you
but
all. Need some
I
help.
so this is I would like
He
to
said he needs some
challenge.
help. Dom, send me a note on Messenger if you want to jump in here. I will message this
So
link.
I want to challenge the men because I'm a little traditional, but I think that you have the ability, and I've always felt this. Men have the power and the ability to steer the direction of the relationship, and the woman decides, do I want to follow? I truly believe that, hands down. And I think as a man, um, if you go into the relationship or the encounter with this woman, and you come with a different type of desire to have quality, versus versus saying, hey, let's go here, let's go there. I really want to get to know you. I want to do some things that allow us to spend some time with each other. I find you intriguing. I love your mind. I think you're beautiful. I really want to get to know you. I'd like to do this, something that'll allow us to spend time together. I think if you can show a woman that, hey, you know what, I'm here for something other than some booty. For the woman that's on that same page, she's going to receive that. It's going to be like refreshing to her. Now, the woman that ain't about that, of course, that's going to turn her off, and you should be glad, because you want to like
Sure.
weed her out from the beginning. Like, you don't even want to waste your time. You don't even want to waste 2 or 3 dates, but just lead with the direction you want to go. Steer it in that direction and see if she follows. I think that I want to challenge the men. If that's what a man really wants, take it there. The right woman is going to follow you in that space.
Everything says the ratio's in your favor, especially as a black man. There's supposedly so many more women to men. What's the problem with the picking? I don't understand when men say they can't find a good woman. I'm like, where are you
No, no,
going?
no. See, Cara, I disagree with you, and I've always disagreed with that. It's all, it's so just because there's quantity doesn't mean that there's
No,
quality.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that, Charlene. I'm just saying that men push this narrative that they have so many more options, but yet why are you struggling? Because
Because we don't have those options. Because we don't have those options. Women get to choose who they want.
Mhm.
Men have to choose who chooses
It's
them, who they
them.
can choose.
Mhm.
That's a whole different thing. And so there are lots they're large. There's a vast amount of men who don't get a choice. They just don't get that choice because
That's
the women
true.
are not even looking at them. They're
Mhm.
looking
It's
at
true.
a particular subset of men that they want. So average looking guys, they might not fit into that ratio. You know what I'm saying? And
And
that's the
you're
problem.
so
I
you're
mean,
you're
that's
you're on you're on point, Steve. And for any man that's out there listening, again, I want to challenge a man. Listen, I had a boss once that told me, and he was an very great personality, very smart, accomplished, impeccable dresser, but he wasn't the most handsome dude. And he said, my daddy told me, if you don't look good, you need to dress nice and smell nice. And if you are a dude that doesn't, you're not, you don't have the physical looks that maybe you would want to have, like, make a woman laugh. We loved, if you confidence
you gotta
and
have
making us
personality.
laugh.
If you're not looking
Make
good, you gotta have personality.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to have personality, make us laugh, and make us enjoy being around you.
right.
Wash your ass and, try to dress decent. But personality and confidence, that's
that
and,
doesn't
and,
work for
and
women though, Charlene.
intellectual. And for me, certain women, to intellectually stimulate me,
It
that
doesn't
is
work for
the,
women though. I'm sorry. It just annoys me to no end. A man can be less attractive. He could have any type of build, and he will still get a woman. I'm not saying I'm not. Maybe she's not good. Let's be clear. But a man could always find a woman, and he could be. There's a dude on Facebook who is homeless, and he built a home in the woods, and there is a woman out there with him who has given up whatever worldly possessions she had to live in the forest with this man. I guarantee you,
but
and
that's
I'm
a
cute.
different, that's
If I go build something in the forest, nobody is coming.
that's a different kind of woman, though.
I
I'm
know,
talking
but I'm
about,
not. I'm just saying that whether she's good or bad, a woman might not even be able to get a bad dude. I mean, he would have to be really low. And even then, he still would like.
okay, no, no, no. A woman can get because a woman has pussy. Okay, a woman has pussy, and if she's going to give up the pussy, she can get a man. So just like you said, a
That doesn't mean
dude.
he'll stay.
What?
That doesn't mean he'll stay. That doesn't mean he's not going
Well,
to go and
yeah. I mean,
venture
I'm
other
talking
places.
about. Yeah, I'm just
He ain't
talking
coming to the
about getting
woods. That's
one.
what I'm saying. He's not coming to the woods.
He'll come to the woods for some pussy.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe I'll
I,
try
I'm
that theory
sorry,
next
Steve. I'm
year.
talking like I'm a man. I'm not a
No,
man. I
you're
can't
right.
speak for that.
I don't disagree with that. I
Oh,
still think, yeah, I think that a woman. What's usually the downfall of men?
has been pussy.
Pussy
Okay,
and
but
money. That's
Yes.
I'm
it.
just doing it wrong. I'm doing it
Pussy and
all
money.
wrong.
Yes.
That has been our downfall from the very beginning. Not that I believe the story, but why
Samson
did
and Delilah.
John,
Adam eat the apple after Eve? He knew that she had done wrong, but he wasn't trying to give that up. He's like, okay,
Dom, you
well,
should be in the room. You must be busy. You must be busy. You don't want to come on here
Of
with us.
course, Dom has
it's
got
like
to be worth
it's like,
it.
yeah, I'm not gonna give that up. I need to go on and go with that. So that's all I'm saying. I'm just,
Okay,
but
but
I'm
then, but
old.
there's
I'm
What
not
do I
talking
another
know?
thing.
about
I'm old. I'm old.
subpar
But
pussy.
when he says it's got to be worth it, I guess it's
Yeah.
like guaranteed access is maybe what he means.
And
But
no, just has to be. So yes, when you reach a certain,
he's
when you
not
I'm
reach a
even
not at that
40
age
yet.
yet. I'm 65, but I'm
when
not
you
at that
reach a
age yet.
certain
I still
age,
See,
care.
Dom's not even 40. Now we definitely
so
going to get you guys
I'm
on together.
yeah,
65. I still care about it. I'm just
so let me state this about pussy because I don't want it to get
Oh, he's going to
twisted.
come on. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I don't want to get it twisted. As a woman, your pussy is only as good as the man thinks it is. As it's only as good as that man that you want to value it values it. Because pussy is a dime a dozen. So when I talk about the power of pussy, I'm talking about this man wants your pussy. I'm not because pussy is everywhere,
Notice
right?
she has no problem saying the word. If
No,
somebody needs to get a calculator, ring a bell for every time.
no,
Okay.
but that's so again, I'm not a man, so but of men that I've spoken to, it's a dime a dozen, but it's only if he values it. And the pussy that he values is powerful,
yeah.
I
Okay.
think, as a woman.
That's it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's possible. But yeah, again, going back to your other point, just because it's a dime a dozen doesn't mean that all men have access to it.
Ugh, man, there's a lot here because
and that's why you have those incels, like this whole movement
A
of
lot of
men
men,
that just
exactly. But
can't
you have
get
it on the other side. Women aren't as
oh, what happened?
we lost Steve. He'll click the link and come back in,
Okay.
or waiting for Dom. I just have so many. I just feel like I've clearly been using mine wrong. This is one of the things that I realized, Charlene, towards the end of my marriage. It's like people are having all these amazing experiences out in the world, and none of that's coming my way. So clearly, I'm using mine wrong. Look who's in the building.
Hey,
Dom, Dom needs
all right.
Steve.
How you doing?
Steve
Help.
said
See,
he
look
we
needs
have.
who's
to put
here.
I
testosterone
can
on the
sit back now.
wall.
Take it away, Dom. I'm just listening. You're old.
I guess, Alina, look, I guess we're staying on a little longer tonight. First of all,
Y'all
Dom,
got me missing the Dodger game.
introduce yourself to Steve. Dom,
Hey
and
Steve. My name's
Hey,
Dominique. I have a lot. I work and do podcasts and have a nonprofit. Worked in law enforcement. Worked in the mental health field.
okay.
Have a lot of experience. Yeah.
All right.
love it. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay, Mr.
I
Dom.
know now he can jump in. Now,
That yeah, that
to my
that
girl,
that conversation pulled him in. Come on,
it
what you
did.
got?
Let me shout out
Bring
to
No,
it.
my
no.
girl, Renee LaFay, my fellow camper. Whoop whoop.
Hey, Renee.
Y'all, we are backpacking this weekend. We are hiking up a mountain in North Georgia, and it's gonna be tough. Okay, but we can cry together. So shout out to Renee, and she said you can get a man. It's just find a man you want. Now that is the truth, because I mean, like I said, I'm cute. I could find somebody. Dom was talking about introducing me to younger guys. That's what we were talking about the last time, which I don't know about that at all. But it's
No,
true.
no.
You
That
can
was
find
Brandon.
a man.
That wasn't me. That was
Oh,
Brandon. That wasn't me.
it
Yeah.
was.
I said that was a no.
Oh, he said he no. Okay. It's just finding a man you want. So basically, people can find people. That's not the problem. It's finding somebody that you actually want to deal with, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
It goes back to what Charlena said. Are you aligned? You know what I'm saying? For example, and I think we talked about this the very first time I was on. At 65, the women who are in my age group, I'm not saying all of them, but a majority of them, when they're looking for a man, they're also looking for companionship and or marriage.
I
Mm.
just
Which
don't know why
means
women in
when
their
they say, well,
60s are
Steve, do
looking
you
for
want to get married again? No, I don't want to get married. So now what does that mean? Are we aligned? No, we're not. So in her mind, I'm
But
wasting
why,
her time.
Steve? Why are
Huh?
women in their 60s
It's
looking
wanting
for
to get
marriage?
married.
Because the other thing, let me say this really quick. When you were talking about being married
One,
twice, I feel
I
like
think they
if
want
you've been married
companionship.
twice, yeah. If you've been
I think
married
they want
twice,
companionship, and I think they also there's still that script that's running in their head, which
that this
is
has to equal marriage.
right,
Yeah.
right. That their life is not completely fulfilled unless the marriage component is there.
They want the story, the fairy
Yeah.
Right.
tale.
And I'm saying, y'all, you could be fulfilled and that not be a part of it. But they're not hearing me.
But you know what? And I want to get Dom to chime in on whatever he wants to say, but it just feels like I don't know how to describe it, but like the energetic stuff does not align. Like people who want to be married, why can't these people find each other? You know, like
I don't
because I feel like this, like I'm tired of men who have like mommy issues and I also noticed that when I first started trying to date, all I was attracting was men who had never been married before, which is not my desire. I need someone
is
who
that a
knows
red
what
flag to
that is
you?
about. What'd you say?
Why
Is
do
that
you
a red
think that
flag?
is?
I'm not saying it's a red flag because it does work out for some people. I just know that for me, even if we're not going to get married, I want someone who knows what that sacrifice looks like. I want someone, I had a guy explain it to me like this. He told me that he would never date a woman who'd never been married before because she wouldn't understand teamwork in the same way. She just would not have that level of understanding. So
Mm.
I want someone who knows what that means. And I feel like at this age, a man who's eternally single, he's going to be more selfish. He just is,
Mhm.
especially if he has no children. He's
Mhm.
never
Yeah.
had to like really truly make a
Sacrifice and put somebody
sacrifice,
else. Yep, I
carve out
agree.
space for other people. And it
Or
doesn't mean he's a
maybe.
bad person,
Mhm.
but I just would be
Right.
concerned about, do you know what's going to be required here?
Yeah. I would agree. I'm gonna shut up so Dom can take over. But I would agree. I would prefer to date someone who has been married and who has kids, because then they know what has
What
to
you
be
have
dealt
going
with. So when I say, "Hey, here's my kids. This is what I'm going to do," they understand. Oh, okay. As a parent, that's what you have to do. A person who doesn't have kids has never been married. They may understand to a degree, but they don't understand.
on.
Understand.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right, Dom, take
Mhm.
it away, man.
Oh,
Educate.
look,
I'm
here's
here.
Yeah.
Renee's advice. She says I need to get a YN. Listen, Renee, let me cancel that right now. I'm not trying to be up all night. There's nothing we do that can't be done in 20 minutes or less. I don't want to make meals. That's what I told Brandon when he was on. Brandon told me if you're getting slammed down on a mattress, you shouldn't mind making a sandwich. I still don't want to do it. I'm just being honest. I don't want to hear his like. It depends on how much of a YN he is, but I just feel like a lot of his conversation, I am not going to want to talk about that at all. I did have a brief encounter with somebody who was like 10 years younger than me, not too long after my divorce, and the conversation was so hard for me. It just felt like he was talking
Forced.
about absolutely nothing. All,
Yeah.
all I kept thinking is, okay, how much longer do I have to have this conversation? Because we get to a certain age, I don't really need to do all that talking. I made a decision before you got here, and I felt like he was doing all that talking to try to like warm me up, not realizing I don't care about any of that. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. I embarrassed myself
You're
on
just
this.
telling on yourself.
I
Ooh,
was
you're
raised
just telling a whole bunch.
I was raised by a man. So I that's why I don't understand why I've done so terribly dating. It's like then sometimes this female side shows up, the estrogen takes over, and I start thinking about the fantasy again. But but for the when I'm concerned, like if I were to date again and say fuck marriage, fuck commitment, I'm just going to be out, I would be treacherous. I had a phase like that. I just don't I get to a place where I don't really care. I don't care about your feelings or what you want to talk about or being a safe place for you. Like I could be in any direction, but Dom, sorry. I want to hear you say something on some of these topics.
No, you're good. No, I would say yeah, I don't know about a YN. I don't like the term YN anyway.
I know
But
it's kind of
but
bad.
I don't necessarily agree because like I said, if I could say like when I was young, because I was like other women, but it was like I wasn't no good, and I didn't know
How
much.
old are you now? 30,
37.
37. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
He
like
said
when
we
I
were
was
young,
I was
Steve.
like what 20, 27, 28, 29, 30, and I was in law enforcement, so I
Mhm.
went through my whole
But
phase,
did the
and it
women
was
care? Because when you're in your
no, they
20s and
didn't.
you're dealing with that's what I'm saying. We don't care if you're no good or not. We're not trying to get that invested. You're here and then you
Some
need to
do,
leave. And
some do
I,
though.
I think some probably would, yeah.
No, no, some do because it was a point where someone's trying to pay for me. I'm like nah, but it's just like it all depends on the mindset. Like my mindset now, I wouldn't think like that now
Mhm.
because it's just like you grow and you realize there's certain things. Which I'm gonna get to what Charlena said when it comes to going to the woods. Ain't no way in the world I'm going to the woods.
Mhm.
It gotta be worth it, and not only that, like for me now between like all the stuff I have going on with the nonprofit, like the hardest thing has been people trying to date and say, "Oh, you don't have no time." My whole thing is, well, I'm gonna keep pushing. And based off what you guys are saying when it comes to experience, my experience been what 2.5 years when I was, trying to get back in the situation I was in. Once I stopped and completely focused on the stuff that I was doing, everything kind of started just falling in line with my business, with everything else. So understanding that, nah, it ain't worth it. It gotta be worth. I'm not going to the woods. I'm not driving out and do nothing. You could meet me when I'm done doing what I'm doing, but besides
Wow.
that, mm,
Okay, but I
But
think
she's
I,
gonna be whoever she is. She's
yeah,
mm,
gonna be a person that has her own thing going on too.
right.
right.
But
That's
I want
what
him
you'll
to unpack
attract.
though. What does he
What?
mean by he's not going to the woods? Because if this is a person that you care about, right? And are you make it sound like you're never going to go do that because of what you have going on. I,
Well, I guess what I'm saying is it's gonna be in my timing. Whereas before I will be chasing or I will stop what
okay.
I'm doing. I'm doing it. I'm not doing
You would
it. Like
make
I said,
time to
I
chase. Yeah,
correct.
you make time to
Yeah.
chase.
Yeah, but it will be basically on my time. And it sounds like now, like saying out loud, it sounds bad. But like I said, if you was on the other side when you're chasing and you're trying to get something that was not there, then you finally like take a step back, regroup, and you start to realize, dang, okay, I'm focused on this, and I'm starting to see everything align up. I'm gonna stay focused on my purpose and the things that
Mhm.
I'm doing, so I don't get distracted with that. If it comes along, cool, but I'm not gonna stop what I'm doing because I did that and wasted almost two
Mhm.
and a half
Mhm.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right. I get that. I get that. That makes sense. Carl, I would go to the woods, and that's only because I'm retired. So I got time.
But Steve, how can you feel
Well, if
like
you
Oh, I
that?
got
got
time, if you got
hey,
time, that's
Carl,
different.
I would visit the woods. I'm not staying in the woods. I'm gonna come and check you out, and I'm going back to civilization. That's all I'm saying. Because I got time. That's
He
all.
basically said he would hit it and quit it. That's
That's
what
what
he
he
Yeah.
said.
said. That's exactly what he said. So he said he's not. I will visit, but I'm not stay. I'm not going to sleep out there.
No, no, no.
Uh,
Can't. No, no, no.
uh,
Bears, mountain lions, all this. No, I
you're
can't
so
do that.
funny.
The
And
clan, all those folks. I can't do that. And that just. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
and it's so funny because that's the belief system, even though none of that is really the reality. But once this is my thing, I don't argue with people anymore because when we were out this past weekend camping, there was a person there who just did not like nature at all. Like she had no business on this trip, okay? But she was trying to support her best friend. And not only did it kind of fuck up the vibe for a little bit. The first night by the fire pit. Now she's surrounded by hikers, backpackers. We're nature freaks. And there's a granddaddy long leg, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" and reaches out to try to kill it. And we were all like, "No!" We're ready to hit her. Why would you kill the? It's not even deadly. It's minding its business. But we had like this huge joint overreaction, and she was just absolutely miserable out there. The nature, and then it was cold. The person who brought her really didn't prepare her properly. It just went on and on. But so my point is, I don't want to take anybody anywhere they don't want to go. I hope to find someone who can at least tolerate the outdoors and grow into it. And what was interesting is, I want to get this from you guys. I really need your opinion on this. So with the wedding, Charlene's daughter got married a couple weeks ago, and
Congrats.
there was a woman there. Congrats, congrats. There was a woman there that Charlene and I both knew from years ago. She came and she did the makeup, and she has been remarried from the person that we all knew her to be married to at the time. And so I'm asking, I just love hearing people's stories. You know, how did you guys meet? What's going on? And it turns out he had never been married before. Um, but so I was asking him, how did you know? And that sort of thing. I love to learn from men. What pushed you over here? You know? And so he said, we don't make sense on paper. You know, like there's nothing that really, and they've been together for how long, Charlene? Like
About 10
15 years.
years. I
It's
don't
been,
know, at least 10.
it's definitely working. I mean, when you saw them interact, you thought they just started dating. You could tell they had a real best friend thing going on. But here's my point. He said, you women need to just throw these lists away. You know,
Absolutely.
he said, we don't make sense on paper. He said, but when I met her, they met at a party. It's like the ideal. It's how everybody wants to meet a person. They were at a mutual friends gathering. They ended up immediately going on a date from the gathering. And then when they talked on the phone, I guess a few days later, he asked her out on another date. And she said, I need to call you back. And when they hung up the phone, she called to cancel her plans with somebody else. And he said, when I found out she did that, I knew that was it. Like that was it. And I'm sure even though he was, and he's probably, they got to be in their mid to late 50s now, right? So he was
She just turned 60. So yeah.
Yeah. So he was an older single guy, but when he knew, he made it plain. He told her, you're not dating anybody else. And that just reminded me that I think this still holds true. These women who are in these forever situationships, he knew in the first 30 days and probably less that he was never going to choose you. And I think this is so hard for women. And we start thinking about ourselves and what we're feeling and what we think is going on. But his decision was already made. Now, he may not say that because he knows that you're more likely to cut off the access. But I think that in general, I feel like men know pretty early. They may not go there with you, but they know if they would. They know what category they would put you in. Are you wifey? Are you the hoe from next, the thought, whatever it is. That's just my opinion. Dom, let's get an answer from your generation, and then I want an answer from Steve's generation. Do you know?
I will say category wise, yes, but as far as knowing like that's the person who I'm going to be with, I say no. Because I think it'd be more stuff that goes into it. Because as you start to like be more around a person, you start to find certain things. You be like, nah, I don't like it. So to me, I don't think 30 days is it. Now, some people that it happens like that, but for me, nah, it hasn't been because I'll see something that I'm like, nah, I'm good. But
But
we do
it doesn't
categories
take
though.
it doesn't take you years.
No, it don't take years. That's something different. That's what they want to tell you.
I don't think it takes years.
And I
Steve?
don't take years.
I agree with Dom. I think you know, who you're willing to work with. That's what I should say. And then what who you can't work with. And those things come up pretty quickly. I dated somebody once and her response to stuff was like just an overreaction to, it was like blown out of proportion. I was like, yeah, I can't, because I like peace. I mean, not peace, but I don't like stress. And those overreactions, that's stressful to me. So I already knew. I was like, yeah, I can't deal with that. I'm not gonna be able to deal with that. My
Emotionally
lover,
regulated.
hey, she might have the best pee in the world, but
It
the
don't
other
matter.
part, because
It
we
is
can't
not right.
always be in bed. We got to deal with this other stuff. And so I agree with Dom. Yeah, you're gonna know some things, but as you're getting to know this person a little bit better, you're like, yeah, I'm not willing to deal with that. And so yeah, at that point I would have to cut them off.
And so the
It,
people have to be emotionally regulated. I know for me, that is like, I can't deal with somebody who can't manage their own emotions. And
Yeah, I can't deal with overreaction,
yeah,
man.
men have
Yeah,
emotions too. Yes, and men have overreactions as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh no,
yeah,
no
male and
doubt, no
female.
doubt, no doubt,
It's
I
no
just
need
doubt.
that
for you to
with a lot of
have
men, it's anger.
I need you to have healthy and um just have very good and very healthy conflict resolution skills. That's
Right,
one thing that's
right,
really very
right,
mature and healthy conflict resolution skills.
right.
That's really important to me.
Yeah. If you fly off the handle, you calling me names and shouting at me, yeah, it's not
You
gonna work.
hitting below the belt and
Yeah, that's
you
not. Yeah,
know no
And some
holds
things I don't
barred.
think even deserve a second conversation, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe, but it really would depend on the nature of what it is, because I just feel like I've gotten to a place where I feel that people are who they are. They can evolve if they're committed to doing that, but for the most part, once someone shows you who they are and how they function, like that's it. And the emotional dysregulation is just impossible to deal with. It takes everything
exactly,
over. You never know how they're
exactly.
going to respond in any
Hmm.
situation. And what I dealt with in the past was, we could make an agreement on Tuesday, but then on Thursday you're in your feelings and now you're doing something totally different than everything we talked about. I would never, if I saw even an inkling of that, and I wouldn't be mad. Hey, my new thing is I release you in peace and love. Like
Mhm.
I need stability. Like
Right,
to
right.
Steve's point, I need stability, peace. I need to know that what you said on Tuesday is still good on
Mhm.
Thursday. It's good on Saturday. We had this conversation. We said we weren't going to deal with each other like that, or that we were going to check in, or I was going to stop begging you to go to the woods and you don't want to, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
But I want to go back to that, Steve. So, okay, you wouldn't stay in the woods. Would
No, I
you
can't do
come?
that.
Would you come and help me unpack my car and then load up at the end of the event? Would you show
Tara, I will come help you unpack, help you set up, even have the meal. Yeah, we can do that. But I gotta go at some point. I'm not staying. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
no,
will
no,
make
no.
sure,
I would agree with that. I
hey,
would agree
and
with that.
Carl, if you called and said, hey, it's unraveling, come get me, I'm gonna come. I'm just not necessarily gonna stay there. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to think about how much I could compromise, because I love being outside. And I feel like if I get in a relationship with somebody who does not like being outside,
Oh, I wouldn't let you stay there by yourself. That's the other thing. You have
oh,
to be with a group of folks. If you were
right,
there by yourself, then I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna suck it up. But we're not doing that every weekend. Oh no.
right. And that's why I feel like
Mhm.
if I end up dating somebody who's not into outside, I'm gonna have to compromise and be inside stuck in this AC a lot more, which I guess I could do.
So, so
But
okay,
You know
Steve,
what
this
the
would
this
you, and
compromise
okay.
would
Dom,
be, Cara?
would you,
The compromise, the compromise would be you could be in your tent. I'm gonna rent one of the motorhome thingies and pull up. I'll be in the motorhome. If you need
Mhm.
something, just come on in.
oh,
That's
that's
the
right, you do the
compromise. I
RV.
can do that.
Now, would it bother you? Because this is the other thing, you guys. I don't need a ton of time spent together.
Okay.
And a lot of women do. I think a lot of women tend to need that. And so if your partner is, wants to, like, what, how much is too much? If they have if you guys don't have if you have some interest in common but other things not, and they want to camp, I'm just using that as an example. How much would be too much for you, where you would have an issue with her, like, constantly being gone on this hobby that you're not into, Steve?
Well, I already told you what my compromise would be.
Right,
So if you
but
want to
how
do,
much is too
if
much?
you want, if you wanted to do it every weekend, I would invest. My compromise would be I would go ahead and get a motorhome or something, and I would stay there, and you could be in the tent outside. It wouldn't bother me. I just don't like sleeping. I don't like the thought of sleeping outside in their tent. I don't have a problem sleeping in the motorhome. That's all I'm saying. So if you want to be out there, go ahead and be out there. I'll be in the tent. So I don't have a problem with that.
Look,
Now,
Charlene,
if I couldn't do that, if I couldn't
Charlene,
do
take
that,
this whistle. If there's an emergency, blow the whistle, and I'm gonna come out of the RV and get you. Keep this whistle handy.
there you go. That's all I'm saying. Shoot a flare or something. Let me know. Just come on in. But outside of that, if I couldn't do that, then maybe, once a month I would go ahead and do that. I would suck it up and do that. I could do that. That's all I'm saying.
And
But it
so
wouldn't be every weekend.
I want to hear from Don, but that's my point, because one of the things that I forgot his name, that her husband said is when he was talking about the list, he was saying, I said, well, I was talking about my love of the outdoors, and he was like, listen, I hate it outside, but I love her. So I go walking with her. Like, I mean, she's not a camper, but he's like, she
Right.
loves the nature trails. And I love her, and I love to be with her. So I go on the trail with her. And he
Yeah.
was saying,
Yeah.
and he said, now I like nature. And I thought that was so eye-opening, because I've had this limited belief that men don't change. And if they're not into something, they're not about to do it because you like
They'll
doing it.
change for a
Yeah, that's
woman if they
yeah,
really
Yeah.
love.
yeah. If
Yeah,
they
they'll
really
change
love,
for a
yeah,
woman.
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
But yeah, you
Wow.
gotta appreciate it and not take it for granted. That's the other
Yeah.
part of that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because once you take it for granted, then it's gonna make the guy feel a kind of way because they sacrificed what they felt was something that they didn't want to
Right.
do, but they
Mhm.
did it only for you. Because if it
Mhm.
wasn't for
Right.
you, they wouldn't have did it to begin with. But once you kind of take it for granted, then it's like you burnt that bridge. And most of the time with men, they'll just
When the
shut
bridge
down.
burnt, yeah, they don't come back. Y'all don't come back very well at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of
Mhm.
grace.
it,
That I gotta say by myself till I'm perfect. Ain't no
it should
grace.
be. No, no, no. I mean, it's grace. I think when you love someone, it's grace. But it's just
Mhm.
certain things that depending on how that person feel. But I would say, like he said, the compromise. I think pretty much going to help every set up everything. That could be something that someone that you was dating, them coming to help set up everything, make sure you was good, stay until the night, and then leave. But I also think like that could change because, well, me, I don't mind camping, but I'm gonna bring my gun with me. But at the same time, it's like I said, it's just different. You just gotta find someone, and someone will meet you. You know where they're at. I don't know about sleeping
Look,
outside
Charlene, and
like on the
Steve would be up
weekend.
in that tent all night long like this. He'll be awake. He would take no sleep.
But I think you guys are making a very interesting point, and I think it's really about what you're talking about, Carl, without mentioning it, is we're looking for a certain characteristic, quality, character trait of a partner that is willing to meet you halfway. That's what you're looking at. So it could be
Oh
camping, it could be
shit.
something else, but really what you want is a partner that says, you know what, this isn't my thing, but it's important to her. So I'm going to do my best to try and be a part of this, to a certain degree. And I think that's the quality that we want in our partner. So again, whether it's camping or whatever, whether it's event planning or, because I know there are things that I enjoy doing that really aren't my husband's thing, but he supports me in it. He's completely invested in an event turning out the way I wanted to turn out because he knows that's important to me. Would he ever do it on his own? Of course not. My husband, he rides a motorcycle. That's not my thing, but that's something he loves doing. I've gotten on it. I've ridden several times and I actually like it. I don't ride probably as much as he'd like or that often, but I do it
I
because it
can't
means
do
a
it.
lot to him.
But the
And
only
I
thing
enjoy
is,
it. I've
I
come
get
I've
it,
come to
Love it.
enjoy it.
and I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
However,
It's
I
a
would
winding
prefer
battle.
something where I would
Kimmy, can I
prefer
call you back in 10 minutes?
I would prefer a situation where we both like doing
Like
this
that.
big thing.
Right.
And
And that's
maybe,
that.
maybe it's not maybe it is like Steve said, it's an RV situation where
Mhm,
he's like, I'm not a camper, but I'll drive there. I could compromise with that.
mhm.
I think my struggle will be somebody who just does not like the
Right.
outside at all.
And
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 every
is it
time he
willing?
has to come, no, it's different. I'm just telling you what I have learned from being involved with this camping crew. It's very different when someone just tolerates it and they're
Mhm,
compromising versus they love it just like you. You're
yeah,
talking about it,
Mm.
you're
yeah.
planning, you're buying the thing. I see
Oosh.
it in other
So
couples.
I
And
get
when
that.
there's a
I
couple
get that.
and the other person is not as into it, they're
Yeah.
bitching about
They're
everything
not
you're
invested.
buying for the hobby. You don't need that. They're constantly trying to down talk you out of what you're doing. Now, there is one couple that's in our immediate circle. They're in their 30s. He is not really a camper. He's definitely not a hiker and backpacker. And we did one trip over the summer that was strenuous, and he was looking every day like, why did I choose her? That's how he looked the entire trip, right? But now, like this weekend, what he did was, and this happened twice. The last trip, he came at the end of it because it was like a half mile to the car, and he loaded everything and took it out, but he didn't stay. This past weekend, the first night she was there by herself. The second night he showed up, he hung out with her, and he's very introverted too. This is it. We've gotten him to loosen up a little bit more now, but he can't be sober. That's number one thing we learned. Don't leave him sober. He'll have a better time. But when he does come, he stays a portion of the time, but you can tell it's not really his thing. They've made it work. Because because he doesn't limit her. He doesn't limit any of her traveling for camping, her hiking. And I think she compromises by not being out there all the time, because she's told us, I'm spending time with my husband this weekend. I can't be out there. So I think there are situations where it can work. And maybe they just have a lot of other things.
Right. And I think, yeah, you have to look at the whole picture. Like, what am I really getting from this relationship? And their lack of being 100 invested in this particular thing that's my interest. Is it worth throwing away everything else, especially if they're willing to compromise and meet you in the middle?
In other ways, I really, Charlene, I just have this fantasy. I just want to get it on in a tent. I just if I did that once and I could settle.
You need to go find that man in the woods. Go find that man in the woods.
That's what I'm. But
out there.
Listen, they had a singles mixer this weekend, and I definitely didn't go, and most of us didn't, because you're like, it's just going to be a bunch of women. You know, men don't come out to events like this by themselves or with other guys. A few may, but because there's so few, these women are like thirsty, and I'm not thirsty, and I don't even want to. How do they want to give that up? You know, so, but I don't know. I guess the key is compromise.
But I guess my question is it enough when your partner compromises and shows some interest, or do they have to be as invested as you are? You know what I'm saying? Because my thing is, I will help you. I may not be as invested in it as you are, but I'm not gonna throw a wet blanket on there and trying to discourage you from doing it. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean that I'm into it like you're into it.
Right.
I'm going to be supportive as you do what you do. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean that I'm going to like it like you like it.
And so for me, Steve, then it depends on what else is going on. Because if this person is like my best friend and just in general, we get along really well, I'm not going to throw him out because he doesn't want to go camping. Then we graduate to another conversation like, I do this often. How do you feel about that? There's all types of people around. How do you feel about that? So it's the same thing as any other passion. I do still feel, though, that if it's not that a relationship works better when there is a shared passion. Like
you have to have some things in common. I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Yes, I agree with that.
And you might have so many other shared passions that it will balance out this one particular thing. So again, it's the relationship in its totality.
Okay, I'm going to switch our topic before we go. And even this is a drastic switch, so nobody might have nothing to say. Some of these topics that ChatGPT gave me, I'm not really smart enough to talk about any of this. I'm working on it. I want to be smarter. I don't want to be shallow, Steve. I've been really like sitting with that old label, but with this, I'm just going to go here. So, there's a lot of stuff going on in the government. I found out today that a friend's husband has been furloughed from the CDC. It's just tough all around. It really, really sucks. And one of the other things I've noticed in terms of women, I don't know if it's happening the same for men. Black women are tired. We've been saying that. And I watched this clip the other day where this woman was saying she's not giving 100% at work anymore. It just doesn't pay off in her career. Sometimes perhaps we're set up to fail. Black women in corporate America have a very unique relationship with it. Like, we've been able to advance, I think, in larger numbers than Black men, but by the same token, it's not always going well for us. And the expectations are high. As you all know, we have to do better, do more. So I found out about Letitia James and this indictment. And then you know how Fannie Willis went down in flames here in Atlanta.
Mhm,
It just
mhm.
feels like there's so much pressure. And then I think she was the president of it wasn't Spelman, but she was a black woman in a higher position, and she committed suicide. She had a white boss who was just constantly bullying her all the time, and it led her to that. And so, but the Letitia James really bothered me because she's almost been like a muse for me. Her strength, the way she shows up,
Mhm.
when I think about how I have melted just on a conference call, and how she could get in a press conference when she was going after her own boss and say, Mario hired me, he knows, he knew who I was when he hired me. And
Mm.
then now, I heard this indictment is nonsense, but now they're
It is.
after her. um I just feel like it's hard for Black women to get the level of attention that we need. We don't necessarily always know how to ask for it. And then I think between Black women and Black men, it always feels like there's some kind of competition. No, I've had more pain. No, I've had more pain. It's harder for me. No, it's harder for me when they're two very different struggles. Because as a Black woman myself in corporate America for almost 3 decades, you can get the illusion that you're moving forward, but you're really in the same place. And it can look to the outside world like you're moving forward and you're being advanced. But I do see how we hit a bit of a ceiling. We show up differently, our energy and everything, and it doesn't always go over well in diverse circles. So I just felt for her on that. What
So
message
your question is,
what message does it send to Black women in power, or what is it, what
well,
impact does it have?
here's what I think. I think that we have to we have to step back and look at the biggest picture.
Mhm.
And the biggest picture is that this country has always been white supremacist at its core. So it
Mhm.
doesn't you expect white supremacy to do what it needs to do to
Mhm.
perpetuate white supremacy. That's the
Mhm.
message.
Mhm.
Now, what
Mhm.
has happened is Black people have found a way historically to navigate the craziness that white supremacy is and get a decent lifestyle out of that. We have to continue doing that. It's harder than it was, say, 60 years ago, 80 years ago, whatever, but it's still difficult. And so that's the message. The message is you expect white people to do what white people always done. Now, how are you going to respond to that? And that's the message. I mean, what else are you going to do unless you just
I
gonna quit
think
the
that a
game?
lot of women are just like realizing 75% is enough. Like we've been going 120 in corporate
Yeah, and
thinking that
that's
it's going
fine.
to get us
Right.
And
something.
That's
maybe they
just.
should. And maybe they should because think about it. Okay, I'm old enough. I'm 65. You had to when I was born, the Voting Rights Act had not been passed yet. The
Mhm.
civil rights movement hadn't really started yet. So in my lifetime, I've seen those things happen. I've seen the Roe v. Wade be enacted and rescinded in my lifetime. So my takeaway is the civil rights era was an aberration in terms of what this country is. This country is what we're seeing now. That's what it's always been. There was a brief time
Mhm.
from the 60s to the 80s where it looked like it was progressive. But even then, when you look at it, when you go back and study, even as civil rights legislation was being passed, they were already trying to undermine those laws and things that had been passed. You see what I'm saying? And so it should not my point is it should not come as a surprise that you're seeing this craziness because the craziness has always been there. How are you going to establish a country talking about all men are created equal and you have enslavers signing that document? It didn't make
Who
sense
are the men? That's why they
from
had
the
to
very
redefine
beginning.
men.
You know what I'm saying? It did not make sense from the very beginning. And so we have to understand that we've always been fighting against this craziness, and we will till we die. So you choose your battles.
You choose your
That's
As
battles.
the
long as
point.
we're in this country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Because it's
I
always
know.
been messed up. People talk about, well, you hear some white people, well, this is not who we are. Yeah, it's who you've always
Mhm.
been.
Mhm.
when you go back and look at from the time that this country was established until now, every decade this country has been in a war somewhere,
Hmm.
and yet they're talking about peace. No, they're not.
And I think that, yeah, I think that that's what makes it all so challenging. You don't want to have limited beliefs and feel like you can't achieve certain things or have certain things, especially when you see some people do. But the percentage of those who crack that, and then what did they have to give up to get there? I'm kind of at, I wouldn't say a crossroads, but just really thinking about, what do I really want? Because sometimes
Yeah,
what we think we want is really just the way to get to what we really want. It's not, that's not really what we want. It's what we think we want or
And you know what? And maybe it's a time for us, I'm not really in corporate, I'm a nurse. But maybe this is a time for us to reevaluate what our values are and what's important to us and what are we working for. Like maybe
exactly.
people, people that are in corporate in these high corporate positions, maybe it's been a myth.
Mhm.
Maybe it's been
It
a
is. It
lie.
is.
And
Yeah,
now it's being revealed that no, we're never going, a few of you may have slipped through,
Right.
but no, we're the opportunity. No, if it looks like the path that we've been on is going to lead to us not having power, oh no, we're gonna snatch this illusion of advancement away from you and show you that we're still in power. So like Steve said, what we're seeing should not be, it's just not surprising.
Mhm.
It's just
it's not.
revealing who
If you've
we
been
this
paying
country's
attention,
always
yeah,
been.
yeah, because it's always been that way.
Mhm.
And our ancestors knew that, and in spite of knowing that, they still were able to have some
And
kind of quality of life, and
right.
that's why I think I talked to you all about
Mhm.
um, why I think the movie Sinners is so, because it's so layered. Part of the symbolism there is that very thing. There's a line that the vampire says to the black guy. He said, "What you all built was beautiful, but it was built on a lie. They were never going to let you have this. It didn't make any difference how much money you had or how many guns you had. They were going to take it when they got ready to."
Mhm.
And that's the reality living in this world. I mean, living in this country. Yes, you can have it, but understand they could take it whenever they want to.
Mhm.
But you're not it, so they don't. You know what I'm saying? But they could. But and it's interesting because I talk to my brother about this all the time. We go back and forth. He says, "Well, why can't black people be unified?" And I feel everything that you have said, black people have tried. We've tried to be unified. They've come in and they've destroyed it. We've tried to live
Yeah.
separate away from them. They've come in and destroyed that.
Yeah.
It's not like there hasn't been an intentional, concerted effort to disrupt our life.
Mhm.
But
Period.
I think that we have this is the thing. I don't even know what people mean anymore when they say, why can't we be unified? Black people are a lot more unified than a lot of other
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
some, let me not say a lot, but than some other cultures. We have our own language, we have our own, a lot of nonverbal. We are more monolithic and definitely more not monolithic than like the Latin American culture. Although really I'm thinking of Black Americans, because when you see blacks in other countries, they
Mhm.
don't really get they don't really understand some of the same, and in my opinion, Black Americans are the richest in certain ways, because I think of some of the struggle and things like that. But my point is, it's not just Black unity in America. When you see Afro Colombians or Mexicans or other places,
Mhm.
the diaspora just messed us all up is what I'm saying. So all we can hope for is unity in pockets. Like I personally, I could be wrong. I think there's a lot of unity in Atlanta. I think if something popped off in Atlanta, the level of togetherness that you would see,
Yeah, it
the
is.
way
It is.
the way we would all just get up,
Yeah,
grab
yeah,
a
Yeah,
jacket,
and I
yeah.
think it's
and
more than it's not public, and that's that. We're not going to
yeah,
do a lot of public display of, what I'm saying. But when
Right.
if the shit hit the fan,
Yeah.
I think
that's
we're
it.
going to be there.
You know
And,
Yeah,
what it's
yeah,
like?
even
You know,
the voting
just
blocks prove that we are still more unified than other races and communities. But
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
that's why I'm
yeah.
saying I don't know how are people defining unity? Because we shouldn't all think exactly the same. There's no joy in that. There should be diverse
Right,
thought,
right, right.
opinion, perspectives, and stuff like that. But in my mind, again, we all. That's why, like, and I know you're trying to say something, Charlena, but it's like I'm in a lot of Black Facebook groups, and one of the admission questions is something about Otis. What did Otis say? It's like the line from a Black movie. We all
yeah.
know these.
No,
That is
right.
a version of
Right,
unity.
Oh,
We
what? Yeah.
all
right,
What
know.
did
right.
David Ruffin say? Yeah. Ain't nobody
Yeah,
Yeah,
come to
yeah.
see you,
it's a
Otis.
Ain't
reference
nobody
to
come to see you, Otis. Yeah,
yeah, or
yeah,
it was a thing about Usher song. What time?
Yeah.
7 o'clock. I'm on
7
the clock.
o'clock.
What time
Right.
am I on the block?
Right.
That's all it said, and you knew it was Usher. So we got
right,
Black Card revoked. Like I have white friends from high school and stuff, and one of them said to me, "We don't have community." Like she said,
right.
she said that the WASP, they don't have any of those they have to make stuff up. She said she told me that's why we pull from other people, because we're very bland.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think my opinion is we're more unified than we think we are. But even within our unity, there's still so much dysfunction. And there's also
So
a
this
ton
is
of
what's amazing to me
between
is,
men and women.
but Carl, this is what's so amazing to me, the amount of unity and the type of unity that we have under the pressure of all of the the discrimination and just all that we've been
It
through to
brought us
still have
together more.
this.
Yeah, I
It
mean, girl, the
right.
camping
It's
thing, the level of familyness there. Everybody's like we're all cousins, and just you could just feel like it. And I think people, especially people from out of town, were like, "Look at all these Black people on 42 acres of Black-owned land."
Right.
Outside of Atlanta. And what was even more, and there was just layers to the beauty. Like she gets on the microphone and just thanks her husband. Like this was her dream, but he is on a tractor. He is laying the ground. Like he was laboring for her dream. I mean, I'm sure he was interested, and he's got to love farming to some degree because they had animals out there and everything. But it was just the beautiful part. That is unity. The fact that we were all there was peaceful.
Mhm.
And the other thing I think is, I think this has gotten better, or maybe we're just older and we don't do these things anymore. But I remember being younger, and it was just like, is it going to be safe? If there's a lot of us all there together, are we going to be
Right,
safe? And I
right.
guess it's because we're more mature now, but there just weren't. I just didn't have zero safety concerns. There was nothing in my mind that if I needed something, there wouldn't be a total stranger there who would be like, this is in the ditch over here. We all need to go get her. So I think we have unity in pockets, but yet we keep talking about it as this ideology that we think doesn't exist.
Yeah, yeah,
So
right. I think, yeah, and I think that, if we were pressed, that unity would show up. And I think that's the
yeah,
main thing. Yeah,
2020 showed us that. We were
yeah,
pissed.
Mhm.
yeah,
When
Yeah.
we saw the George Floyd thing, like friendships, I'm sure people ended their marriages and a lot of stuff broke up when you finally realize, oh, this is how they really feel, or
right,
whether it was a
right, right.
Black person or a white person. And all of that has just continued even more and more during the
I
Trump
agree,
administration. When you
agree.
see, and some people have said it's a shame. I remember ironically, when we lived in Columbia in 2018, my daughter came home from hanging with the white kids one day, and she was like, they're Trump supporters, are not hanging around them anymore. And I was like, what? And one of the other white moms had told me, oh, I think these people feel like this or that. And the father went on Facebook, which I thought, wow, you are in your late 40s or 50s. You want to talk about this there? And he was saying friendship shouldn't end because of political beliefs. And I'm thinking, this is different.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
people have a right to their side. Listen, I'm not mad at you, but I release you in peace and love. I don't want to be around that.
Yeah.
I don't
You
want to be
know what's
around
so it's so interesting that you should say that because I don't even know what caused me to have this thought just today, earlier today, but I felt like putting a post on Facebook.
She doesn't do
If
that.
you
That's
if
okay.
you are a Trump supporter, please feel free to unfriend me. That I
I,
mean, that's how I felt this morning. I just I can't.
I have so pruned my Facebook connection list. I think I've got maybe 4 white friends, and they're proven allies, and
Mhm.
I guess that run up into 2020 when all that craziness was happening, when Trump was doing all that, and people start showing themselves, I started deleting them. I was like, yeah, you're done. Thank you very much.
We
Thank
don't
you for
have to
your
deal with
cooperation.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's my thing is you don't, especially okay, at work is one thing you have to do, but in your personal life, you don't have to deal with it.
No,
It just, to
no.
me,
Not
it's
at
not the
all.
same as
Not
when
at
Right.
all.
Bush or anybody else. The ideology is so different. It's not even really
Mhm.
tied to any political
Political
party.
party. It's not about political party. It
No,
isn't.
so it's just
No,
Because if that was
it's
it,
about core beliefs.
yes. Because
That's
if
what
it
it's about.
was, yeah, we wouldn't have. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
It's
mm-mm.
about core beliefs.
Yeah.
So,
So
all right,
yeah, so
Carl, I got to go.
yeah, we
Carl,
do
I
need
got to
to end
go.
this.
I'm not
Let's
going
go, you
camping, but I
guys.
got to go.
Yeah, I know I have to go too. I need a
Bye,
potty break.
Steve.
Bye, Steve. We'll let you go, and Charlene and I will close.
All right.
Okay, see ya.
See you
See
when
Bye.
you
we do
next
this
time.
again.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys. Thank
You
you so much.
You
too. Thank
too.
you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, Charlene.
Go
I
Dodgers.
know you got to go, and we just did. We haven't done the breath in so long, so I just want to do that. I want to take a breath and hold a breath for all of the people who are furloughed, um, all of the people who feel marginalized for any reason. It's not just Black people. Um, all the women out there who have lost hope in love, and are really struggling to believe that what they desire they can really receive. Um, I also listened to, I'm going to send you the link. This is so good, maybe to talk about one day. The woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love went on
Uh-huh.
Oprah and a recent show and just talked about how she did that whole book about leaving her husband for her lesbian best friend and,
Mhm.
to stay with her through her cancer journey, and how it really was never what it looked. It just imploded, and her codependency. And her point was that she realized that she was a love addict. She said love and sex, but kind of the same thing. And it really got me to thinking about that, and the importance of doing our healing, so that if we do desire to have the love, the job, the anything, that you can, believe in that. And so I just want to take a breath for myself and some of the work that I'm doing internally around that, as well as any other woman or person out there who just really desires to, create more of a life they love. Maybe you don't know how to get there. Um, but so that's it, because I could go on. I have a million topics running through
I
this.
sent an article to you and Natalie. You kind
Yes,
of touched
I
on
have.
it a little bit. I want you to, yeah, read through that. It was right on point with what you were
Yes.
talking about women in the workplace. So,
Okay.
um,
Here's
just want
my
to
here's my
thank
here's my actual final closing thought that I'm going to keep brief. I didn't want to share. I've been reading One Day My Soul Opened Up. I think that's the title of the Iyanla book. And today, every day is a different word, and the word is unpacked. And today's word was disappointment. Every word just hits me so strong. And it said in the chapter that disappointment comes when, um,
expectation.
yes, your intention, based on your
What
unspoken,
expectation?
your
Mhm.
intention wasn't met. And so you're
Mhm.
disappointed, even if you didn't necessarily communicate that. So in a relationship, for example, I go and I'm hoping you're going to do all these things that I never told you I wanted. You didn't make your
Mhm.
intention clear, and then you're disappointed at how it turned out.
Mhm.
That hit me
Mhm.
so strong. And then the other side of it is disappointment around what other people are doing or choose to do. You can't control anybody but yourself. My children may never do what I hope they would do, but if I shouldn't sit in disappointment around that because they get to choose. And so for anybody who's dealing with a lot of disappointments, I just hope that you take a breath right now and just let that go. Focus on what you can control, because that's a lot. That's enough to keep you busy all day, but you can't worry about anybody else and what they're doing. Now they get to choose, and then you can make a choice of your own, but you can't control the choice that other people make. So we're just going to take a breath. Make sure you're sitting fully upright with your spine erect. If I can do it with a full bladder, everybody can do it.
Well, I had a drink.
All I have, I'm just drinking this sparkling juice, honey. It's nothing special. So we're going to do in through the nose, hold for 4, and then release slowly, exhale through your mouth slowly for 4, and then let you guys go. All right, let's prepare. You can, I want you to bring your eyelids closed just so you can focus on the breath. You can pretend, or within your eyes, look down at your nose. Just calm yourself down. A lot of great information shared this evening. Let your body relax. Let go of your belly, your shoulders, your tongue and your mouth. Clear your thoughts. No one needs anything from you right now. And we're inhaling. Hold. And exhale slowly through your mouth. All right. As you feel ready, go ahead and come back to the space and gently open your eyes. Listen, be gentle with yourselves. Charlena, my dear friend, I love you so much. I want you to be gentle with yourself. I want you to love on yourself this week. I want anyone listening to stop being mean to yourself. And then if somebody else talked to you the way you talk to yourself, how would you feel about that? Think about that. And my last ask, the next time you walk past a mirror, I want you to look yourself in the eyes and say, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I do that all the time, and it will bring your self-worth up. I love you. How can anybody love you more than you love yourself? If you love yourself, you will learn how you need to be loved. Whole nother episode. Listen, have a blessed evening. So glad you
Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers. Go St. Louis Cardinals. Go Atlanta Falcons. Look, I've lived too many places. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Love you, sis. Have a
I
good
love
night.
you too. Okay, bye.
Bye.